The Gabriola Island Recycling Organization, fondly known by everyone as GIRO, is a not-for-profit charitable organization. We're governed by a board of volunteer board members. So GIRO's main purpose in the community is to serve as a recycling facility. We're also a social enterprise, so we consider ourselves to be like a local community hub. Part of our mandate is to educate and inform the community on best practices on how to rethink and reduce consumption habits. GIRO started back in 1990 with the donation of some land by a couple of residents, Mervyn and Annette Sweeney, and then some funding with the regional district of Nanaimo. The first part of GIRO was built. We sort of kept adding on. The building got longer and taller and wider over the following 35 years. And that was mainly done through grants with the regional district of Nanaimo. Currently we have 14 staff that are paid permanent year-round. Most of those are part-time. We have 2 full-time staff. Then we have about 15 volunteers, and they volunteer anything from 2 to 4 hours a week. And the volunteers really do support the culling, the cleaning, the sorting, the processing. So we're very grateful for the volunteers, and I feel like they also feel that it's a great opportunity for them to feel that they're helping the planet environmentally and giving back to their community as well. So there are now 6 departments within GIRO. The 3 main ones, the houseware department in the store and the clothing and textiles, and then the recycling department.
We're right now deep in the recycling section. We've had one volunteer over the probably 20 years at least that has invested a lot of time in high grading and processing more of the precious metals, ways of separating the copper and stuff into the various grades, whether it's number 2 copper, number 1 copper, bright and shiny, there's household wire, there's extruded aluminum. Each of those have value by the pound, and it usually takes us a couple months maybe to have enough to haul into the town to make my trip to town worthwhile. We also do a pallet of just straight carb and marine batteries as well. Those help us recoup some costs too, although batteries haven't really held their value. We've joined the small appliance recycling program, which helps us get rid of a lot of stuff that we used to just throw into the metal bin.
Here is our scrap metal, and scrap metal is any kind of steel. Steel is made from iron, which is ferrous, which is magnetic. So when stuff is being dropped off, if we're not sure what the metal is, we'll check it with a magnet. And if it's magnetic, then it's going to be going into our bin. So the steel here you can see is all what we call white steel, which is fridges, freezers. It has some plastic in it, which is why we call it white steel. So it's less dense than something like this kind of metal or pieces of machinery. We get it all into this bin over here, and we try and pack the bin as full as we can. So this bin fills up every 10 days. We're always surprised at how quickly it fills up. So the aim is to pack the bin as full as we can so that we get some value for the actual steel as well. For many years after the transfer fee, we would make about $70. But in 2019, when China closed their doors on scrap steel, we were no longer getting money for the bin. We were actually paying to have it transferred, which was costing us quite a bit. And in the end, it ended up costing us around $10,000 a year. In 2019, China basically shut the doors on 23 different materials, saying that it was either too low grade or it was heavily contaminated, and they didn't want it anymore. So this basically left the rest of the world scrambling to find new end markets for those materials. And 5 years on, we're still struggling. The end result is we have to pay to get rid of some of them. They're sending stuff to Turkey. India has one of the fastest growing GDPs right now, and so a lot of our scrap steel is going to India. We're looking at pivoting to adapt to these outside global challenges. So here we have a slide that's showing the revenue that each department at GIRO is generating. The recycling department, it may have a smaller amount of revenue being generated, and a lot of that is really dependent on the value of the materials and what their global market value has. So there's quite a few materials at GIRO that for several years now we have been paying to actually get processed, One of those is stretchy soft film, so your typical stretchy plastic bag. We receive a consistent volume from the community here on Gabriola, and we currently pay about $200 a ton. So that material, we are always encouraging folks here to reduce their consumption, rethink and reduce as much as possible. So over here we have another bin. This is slightly smaller, and this is just for aluminum. The highest content of the Earth's crust is made of aluminum. So even though there's a lot of it in the Earth's crust, it's very expensive to mine because of the amount of water and electricity that the process uses. So aluminum does hold its value on the market quite steadily. The bin here is just for what we call clean aluminum. So nothing can go in the bin that has any other material. If it's got like plastic on it, then all of this has to be removed before it can go in the bin. This bin, once it's full, we have it squished with a backhoe, and that will happen a couple of times before it really is completely compacted. Then again, ABC come and switch out the bin for us, which is about twice a year. We purchased a tank for used engine oil. For many years, a lot of folks here would just change their oil on their property and the oil was getting dumped. It is quite a high contaminant in groundwater on Gulf Islands. So we were really excited to get this program going and encourage people to bring their used oil to us. And that oil is collected when the tank is full by interchange recycling. We're pleased to see an increase in the volume that we're receiving.
So this is our cardboard baler. Cardboard is certainly one of the main things that we haul off island. I take over 1,000 pounds of cardboard each week into Cascade Recovery. The majority of which is business recycling, which kind of puts us in a unique problem, I guess, if we wanted to join Recycle BC, because they're more interested in residential recycling. We bale up the cardboard. I can take about 12 to 15 bales of cardboard, plus a bin of paper, plus a bin of mixed plastic, and that's pretty much a load to town on a regular basis. Certainly over the last 3 years, the price for cardboard plummeted. Back in 2021, I believe, we were getting $5 a ton for cardboard, which may have netted us $50 to $60 a month. And then by September, that price dropped down to minus 153. So we went from maybe making a little bit to having almost like a $600 or $700 bill. And the same went with the mixed paper, which also is a very substantial amount. And then we look at the paper cutter, which we invested in probably about 15 years ago, to deal with books and magazines. The mills did not want to deal with the glued bindings in the books. We had to chop the spine off of them in order to put it into just straight mixed paper. This is our second machine in the last 15 years. The amount of books that come through here, whether they're encyclopedias or even just the randomness of magazines that come through here on a regular basis, that adds up. Like I can easily take a 500 kg box of paper to town just because that's what happened in a week. Those are the major things that I'm moving on a weekly basis: cardboard and paper. We also bale up the HDPE number 2 opaque, which is the non-colored plastics, which still retains a little bit of value for us, whereas most of your mixed plastics now don't have any value for us. Plastics have so many contradictions and problems. Most of your plastics that you get at the grocery store will have a little triangle symbol. It's the chasing arrow symbol. A lot of people have been misled into thinking that that is a recycle symbol, when in fact that symbol alone is just called a polymer identifier. So all that really does is identifies what the plastic is. It does not guarantee whether or not that's going to be recycled or not. It confuses people. You know, back in the day, if we didn't have plastic, recycling is so cut and dry because you've got paper, cardboard, and glass. All that stuff has been widely recycled for years. You know, now the fact that they don't recycle glass anymore is kind of sad. It's cheaper for them to make more glass than it is to recycle glass. The strange thing for us over the last few years has just been the fact that, you know, cardboard has been one of those things that used to be recycled like crazy. When China stopped taking stuff, the whole industry was challenged. Are we still good recyclers, or were we just really good at shipping stuff to China? And, you know, if you're just throwing things over the fence, then sure, your backyard looks great. And unfortunately, we're trained to be good consumers instead of being conscientious, earth-bound human beings. But convenience and technology nowadays comes at a price. At what cost, I guess, is the thing. And you're not trying to shame people, you're just trying to inform them and let them make their decisions as best they can.
We can receive gently used items like books, appliances, knickknacks, kitchenware, games, toys, tools. Some days we get a whole U-Haul of items, and that might be because someone's moving or has passed away. We do our best in those circumstances. If we have too many of one item in the store and I'm noticing it's not selling, I have to put a limit on what we can receive until we sell those items. It really does fluctuate from a day to day and what's selling and what's not. Once we've received your donated item, we bring it to be checked, and so our pricer can sort through price and then put out for our volunteers on a prep day to be ready for an open GIRO day. We see a lot of clothes come through, so we have put a limit of 1 bag per vehicle per day. So you can drop that off at our clothing donation window. We will check through it to make sure it's clean, no rips or stains. You might be asked to hold on to your clothes if it's not the correct season, say like a winter jacket in the middle of July. We don't have a place to store something like that. We have to be able to put it on the hanger and get it out into the store as quickly as possible. What helps the whole process is if your donations are organized. So say if you have a bag of clothing, all the clothing is together, and then your housewares or books or appliances are somewhat sorted, they're clean, they're intact, you know that they're working. That really helps the receiver to quickly accept your items and to move the line along. Patience and kindness goes so far here. We're a tight-knit community. We want to serve you in the best way we can.
When you're deciding what to bring to GIRO, maybe go through that checklist. Is it in season? Is it clean? Is it ready to be worn again? Or, is it gently used? If it is heavily stained or damaged, it might be worth considering for our shredding operation.
Our process starts over in the GIRO thrift store, where either items that have been on the shelf for too long and not selling, or things that we receive from the public that are not suitable for us to sell. We have a team of staff and volunteers that will remove the hardware, sanitize the clothes, and then send them over to me for shredding. Here's our shredder. As you can see, the teeth are quite a bit smaller than most industrial clothing shredders. Most shredders on the market are designed to prepare textiles for landfill. We went for the smaller cutter stack so we could get the finer particle size for our shred. Here's a few products that were made from our Relove local team. This is a throw pillow. As you can see, the shred lends really well to a product like this. It's firm, it's got a nice weight to it, and it's very fluffable. Our shred lends really well to replace anything that would be filled with a polyfill or shredded foam. We've been experimenting with lots of different things, and so far I've been pretty happy with how the product is lending itself to different applications. We are shredding polyester and cotton, both of which are known to have respiratory effects. The next step for us is we're going to be installing a professional ventilation system that is actually going to completely enclose our shredder. The goal is that whoever is operating the machine, usually me, will have zero exposure to any of that dust. And so we've put a pause on making the project public so that we can address these things. We want to feel that it's safe for me or anyone shredding. We want to feel it's safe for the end user, people who are going to be using it to stuff their cushions and products.
The rest of the space, as you can see, is an education space for really rethinking textile waste. Whether you're looking to come and work on a home project and you want to have access to renting a station for using, some specialized equipment like a serger or an industrial sewing machine if you want to mend some sails, or whether you're just a home project crafter and you want to have more room to use the cutting tables and have access to sewing machines, then this is the space to do it in. And then also this is the space where we'll be holding workshops on everything to do with mending and repair, weaving, rug hooking, machine sewing, hand sewing. There'll be an endless list of workshops that we will be bringing in skilled instructors to teach. So the space is really just getting going. Whether you're a quilter or a knitter or a crocheter and you just want to come and attend some open house space to learn more about what other textile makers are doing, this is all going to happen here in the Relove Makerspace.